Welcome you all to this class on linguistics. Dear students, today's topic is assimilation. We finished consonant sounds and then vowel sounds as well. And in today's class, I will try to complete assimilation. Obviously, I will complete assimilation. And if I get time, then I will complete elision as well. But let's start with assimilation. What is assimilation? Remember one thing, that we are dealing with phonetics and phonology. There are different chapters in linguistics, and phonetics and phonology is probably the most important part of linguistics. And there are other aspects in linguistics like morphology, sociolinguistics, psycholinguistics, syntax. So gradually we will do the, and there are some theoretical aspects as well. So gradually we will complete those aspects and those chapters of linguistics. But as I said earlier, that phonetics and phonology is the most important one, and we are still in that. And in today's class, we will deal with assimilation. And when we are dealing with phonetics and phonology, remember one thing, that most of the issues will be related to our pronunciation, origin of words, and the place of articulation, manner of articulation, and the way we pronounce words, and how the words are pronounced in isolation, and how the words are pronounced when we are use discourse or while in discourse. So sometimes we see that when we pronounce some words in isolation, they have one type of pronunciation, but when those words, the same words, they are used in conversation or real life conversation, we see that some changes take place even in the pronunciation of the words. Because when in isolation, you can get enough scope to use the grammar of articulation. But when you are in a casual speech, basically in casual speech, then naturally some other factors get involved, that you have to be fluent. And when you are fluent, then it's not always possible to maintain the grammar of pronunciation. As manner of articulation, place of manner of articulation, basically, it's not always possible. And why it's not always possible, we will see in today's class. Now, what is assimilation? Naturally, this question will come to our mind. So, what does assimilate mean? Assimilation means that getting merged together. Let's read it first. The aspect of connected speech is something different from the speech sound produced from uttering isolated words. That's exactly what I was telling. The aspect of connected speech means that when you are in a conversation, when you are in a conversation which is uninterrupted, you are having a conversation with your friend, with your teacher, or with anyone else, no problem. So what happens then? Can you pronounce the words in isolation or separately? Is it possible? Or you have to use sentences? Definitely you have to use sentences. And when you speak, and when the sentences come one after another, is it always possible to follow the grammar of pronunciation? True or false? No, it's not always possible. And that's why there are some valid theories which will show you, which will tell you that some changes will take place in the pronunciation of words when they are pronounced in isolation and when they are pronounced in sentences or in your discourse. Now, different from the speech sound produced from uttering isolated words. Isolated words mean that when you pronounce the words in isolation, separately, so they have one type of sound. They have the genuine sounds. But those genuine sounds will definitely incur or definitely experience some changes when they will appear in the discourse of our everyday life. The speech is thought of a string of sounds linked together. What is speech? What is conversation? What is discourse? A kind of garland, a kind of string woven with different words. So as a garland is woven with, flowers, similarly, a speech is woven with sentences firstly and then with words. Now, when the words form a sentence, and when you speak the sentence, when you are in a conversation, Can you maintain the exact pronunciation of the words all the time? It's not possible. Why it's not possible? Because you have some limitations as a human being. Say, for example, one sound requires your alveolar to get involved. Suddenly, another sound you will require which will originate in the vocal tract. So, the speed with which your tongue has to change its place, or the sound has to change, the place of articulation or manner of articulation, it's not possible as a human being, because the influence of the previous pronunciation will definitely have an impact on the next one, or the pronunciation of the next word or the next alphabet or the sound will have a kind of influence on the previous one when you are in a conversation, when the words are not separately pronounced. One very important aspect of connected speech is assimilation. I have already said. So assimilation is getting merged. I mean, if two sounds come together, so one will have an impact on another. Otherwise, it's not possible the active or the passive organs within your mouth to get involved, because you have, as a human being, you have got some limitations. You cannot change the place so frequently as the words demand, as the pronunciation demands. You cannot change the position so quickly. So either the preceding word or the next word, the following word, they have an impact on each other. I mean, vice versa. Either the preceding one will have an impact on the following one, or the following one will have an impact on the preceding one. So that's how the assimilation originates. And assimilation is an inevitable part of any conversation. It's a must. You can, since you are in a conversation. So this is the influence of one sound on another to become more like it. Assimilation takes place when one sound is influenced by one of its neighbors. So assimilation takes place when one sound is influenced by its neighbor. So the neighbor can be the preceding sound, the neighbor can be the following sound. So who is your neighbor? The family that which resides just beside your house or your flat. So they are the neighbors. So the neighbors can stay either on the east side or on the south side or on the north side or on the west side. So in case of words, there is not east, west, south or north. There is either the preceding or the following. So either the preceding sound will have an influence on the following sound, or the following sound will have an impact on the preceding sound. In simple words, the first sound will have an impact on the second sound, or the second sound will have an impact on the first sound. Why? Because you are in a conversation. You are not pronouncing the words separately. When you will pronounce the words separately, then the original sound will come. But when you are in a conversation, you have to sacrifice some sounds. Why have you have to sacrifice? Because either the active articulators I mean the tongue or the lips will not work properly, because the shifting from one place to another place is so quick that you have to sacrifice some sounds. That is why assimilation originates. Assimilation is likely to be found in rapid casual speech. But if you think, or if you ask me, is it not possible to avoid assimilation? We always have to allow the sounds to influence either the preceding sounds or the following sounds? Is it not possible to pronounce the words properly as we do in isolation? Yes, it's possible. But in that case, we have to sacrifice fluency. You have to sacrifice the kind of rapid speech you use when you are in a conversation, or when you are having a conversation with your friend, you are speaking with your friend, you are speaking with your classmates or teachers. Then you have to sacrifice the speed, you have to sacrifice the fluency. In that case, you can avoid assimilation, but we usually don't do that. And assimilation you will basically find among the native speakers. The English speakers of this subcontinent, when we speak English, we can avoid assimilation because we are not that much fluent. But when you will notice the British people or the people of United States speaking in English, you will observe one thing, that frequently they assimilate, and it becomes very difficult for us to understand what they say, and that is why our listening power is not that much solid or that much strong, because we cannot understand the assimilation, the kind of elision, the kind of flap they do when they speak, and the kind of pronunciation, the kind of accent they use. That is why it becomes very difficult for us to understand the conversation of the British people or the American people. When you watch a Hollywood movie, you cannot basically understand listening to the people what they are speaking. But they don't speak in unknown words. They don't speak in unfamiliar words. Very few unfamiliar words you will notice in their conversation. But still you don't understand. Why you don't understand? Because they use assimilation. There is a kind of influence of one pronunciation on another, one word on another word, and that is why we get puzzled. We don't understand. But when you read the subtitle in the Hollywood movies, you can easily understand. Oh, I see. This is the word he is or she is saying. This is the sentence. It's so simple. I didn't understand. So don't get nervous. Don't get frustrated. It's very natural that you will not understand, because they use assimilation, they use elision in their everyday conversation, real life conversation, and the rapid conversation. So don't get nervous. Let's proceed. Assimilation can occur either within a word or between words. Now, you can understand by this time that assimilation means getting merged. One sound will have an impact on another sound. So, assimilation can occur within a word. We will see the example. In rapid speech, for example, handbag. Pronounce it separately with me. Handbag. Handbag. So what am I doing? I am pronouncing the word, uttering the word, breaking it in two parts. I am pronouncing hand, and then I am pronouncing bag. But is it the way a British person or an American person will pronounce the word? Or even you, when you will be a fluent speaker in English, will you pronounce the word handbag in that manner? Definitely not. What will you do? Just follow me and practice it with me. That the way I am pronouncing the word right now: handbag, 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 handbag. Now, when I will be rapid, when I will pronounce the word rapidly, frequently, and quickly, a handbag will be transformed into a handbag. Go to the next one. Handbag. I have used the phonetic symbols over here, and you have to know these symbols. I know that you did this class, you attended these classes, and these symbols were taught in the classroom. And if you cannot remember, please, I will request you to know these symbols. I will again discuss these symbols. Already I have discussed the vowel and consonant sounds, and when I discussed those consonant sounds, you must have noticed some of the symbols, phonetic symbols. So what happens here? Handbag gets transformed into handbag. Handbag. So hand and nd, it vanishes and it becomes handbag. So this is assimilation. It's getting merged. N and no and do getting merged into more. No and do getting merged into more. You can ask me, why not no, or why not do? Why more comes instead of no and do? Remember one thing: if the word originates, not the word, the sound originates within your mouth, either in the vocal tract or within your mouth. And there is active articulator and there are passive articulators as well. Articulator means which are involved in articulating the words, in producing the sound, not words, in producing the sounds. So when you are pronouncing a sound, you are producing a sound using the tip of your tongue and just the alveolar ridge, and then suddenly you are pronouncing another sound which originates in the vocal tract. So can you understand that how quickly you have to shift the position in your mouth? It's not possible. So what does the mouth do? What does the organ do? The organ basically looks for a comfortable zone, a comfortable position, And that comfortable position is mo, not no, not do. So that is why handbag gets transformed into handbag. I hope that you understood it. For example, the word this, just pronounce with me, this, has the sound not s, saw. The word this has the sound, it ends with saw. And if it is pronounced in isolation, there is no problem. This. So it ends with saw sound, followed by shaw, as in a word shop. So this, this. Then shop. Pronounce with me. This shop. No problem. When I am pronouncing the two words separately, no problem. This shop. This shop. It often changes in rapid speech through assimilation. But when I will rapidly utter these two words, pronounce these two words, what will happen? This shop, no, practice with me. This shop, I'm pronouncing separately. This shop, 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 this shop. Understand? Do you understand what is happening? The sound saw is vanishing. The ending sound, the closing sound of this, I mean saw, is vanishing. This is called assimilation, and being influenced by the following sound shop. So this shop, this saw, becomes shaw, being influenced by the shaw of shop. So the saw of this is influenced by the shaw of shop, and it also becomes shaw when we are in rapid speech, when we are in rapid and fluent conversation. Why it happens, I have already said that you have got some limitations within your mouth and the organs cannot move so quickly. And this assimilation is valid. This is valid. This is theoretically valid. And you are allowed to do this. And we, the people of this subcontinent, since we don't know these issues basically, that is why we always try to pronounce these words separately. And we always try to stick to these words. We always say this shop and we pause. We take some time after pronouncing this. We take some time. There is a kind of lapse of time, and then we pronounce shop. And that is why we lose our fluency. So if you want to be a fluent speaker, you have to know all these theoretical aspects, that these aspects are allowed. So this shop can be pronounced as this shop, this shop, this shop. I don't like this shop, I don't like this shop, I don't like this shop. So saw is getting vanished, being influenced by the following shop. So this is assimilation. So what happens is that the final saw sound of this changes into shaw because of rapid pronunciation. So why is it happening? It is happening because of the rapid pronunciation. Now, progressive, there are different sorts of assimilation. The first one is progressive assimilation. That means left to right. So we will see what is progressive assimilation. Assimilation is progressive when a sound influences the following sound. I mean, when one sound influences the next sound. The first sound influences the second sound. So it is called progressive assimilation. Let's see the examples. Since the preceding sound is too dominant, because the preceding sound is too dominant, I mean the first sound is very dominant. For example, in the word dogs, dogs is pronounced not s. Here the ending s, sorry, saw, is assimilated to zaw by the influence of preceding voiced go, go, go. So what does it mean? In the word dogs, look at the last sound, saw. I am not saying s, I am saying saw. This saw is influenced by go. Can you understand? I hope so. Progressive assimilation means the first sound, I mean the preceding sound will influence the following sound. So go will influence saw. In the word dogs, go will influence saw, and you will see how saw becomes or gets influenced by go, and saw will change its pronunciation. What will happen? Dogs. We, the people of this subcontinent, we pronounce dogs. There are many dogs in our locality. But when you will listen to a British speaker, you will see, you will notice that they will never say dogs. They will say dogs, dogs. There are many dogs in our locality. There are many dogs in our locality. Why dogs? Why not dogs? Because they know assimilation, and this is the way they pronounce words, because the last sound saw has been influenced by the sound go. So that's why dogs being transformed into dogs, dogs, zaw, zaw, zaw. I'm not saying jaw. There is a difference between zaw, jaw, zaw, jaw, zaw, jaw. I will tell you the difference. By this time, I mean in the previous class I told you the difference, and again I will tell you the difference gradually in my next classes. So what we see, that the last sound saw is influenced by go. Let's see some more examples. Seven, seven, seven. So here, no is influenced by va, and it becomes seven, seven, seven. I have seven books. I have seven books in my uh, table. I have seven books, seven books, seven books. So if you say, sir, how is it possible? Seven becomes seven. Yes, it will definitely become seven. How? Just practice with me. There are seven players. There are seven players. There are seven players in the field. How many players are there in the field? There are seven players. Do they pronounce seven? No, they don't do that. They are so frequently they pronounce the words. So quickly they pronounce the words that it doesn't stick to seven. It becomes seven. Seven. So there are seven players. There's seven players. There's seven people. There's seven persons. How many persons were present in that meeting? Can you say how many people persons were present in the meeting? Oh yes, I can. There are seven people. There are seven persons. That's how they speak. There are seven persons involved in the meeting or present in the meeting. So now you understand that how seven becomes seven. I'm again telling, there are seven persons in the meeting. How many persons were in the meeting? There are seven persons. There are seven persons. So now you understand that how seven becomes seven. And the first one, I mean, va is having an influence on no, and that's why bha mo, bha mo. Why it becomes mo? Because pronouncing mo is much easier than pronouncing no, 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 because your tongue tip has to touch the alveolar if you want to pronounce no. That's why the mouth makes a kind of balance, and instead of doing that, bha mo, they originate almost from the same place, and that is why no is becomes mo. Let's go to the next example. Handkerchief, 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 handkerchief. So what happens, you see, that handkerchief, 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 dog vanishes, you know. And what happens? Handkerchief, handkerchief, handkerchief. So no has got such an influence on do that do completely vanishes, almost it vanishes, and R also vanishes. So this the preceding words has got an influence on the following words. So handkerchief, 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 handkerchief. No do, no raw. In non-standard English, the word seven is usually pronounced as seven instead of seven, in which en is changed into more syllabic. Regressive, right to left, when the following sound will have an impact on the preceding sound. So in the previous one, we saw the first sound influences the second sound. Now the second sound will influence the first sound. Regressive assimilation occurs when a sound influences one which precedes it. That means which comes earlier. The most familiar case of regressive assimilation in English is that of alveolar consonants. So alveolar consonants that are ta, ta, that originates in the alveolar ridge with the help of the tongue tip. Ta, da, sa, za, no, no are followed by non-alveolar consonants. For example, for assimilation, the word foot, football, football becomes football. Why it happens? Alveolar consonants means the consonant sounds that originate in the alveolar ridge. I took a class on consonant sounds, and when I took those classes, I told you one thing, that if you don't remember these things, you will be in troubles in future. And now probably those students who are doing this class for the first time, if you really do classes, if you really attend classes, now you will be in troubles, because you will not understand what I am saying. So please, if you don't understand this class, and if you are a new student who is doing this class for the first time, go back to the class that I took on the origin of consonant sounds, and in place of consonant sounds, manner of consonant sounds, and then vowel sounds, and then come to this class. Otherwise, if you suddenly come to this class without understanding those classes, those discussion, it's not possible for you to understand what I'm saying now. So what happens that if these alveolar consonants are followed by non-alveolar consonants, why it happens? Because when you produce alveolar consonants, your tongue is so much in action that it becomes very difficult to go to the next pronunciation, to go to the next sound. And if your mouth sacrifices anything, if the articulators, either the active articulator or the passive articulator, they sacrifice any sound, they will basically sacrifice the alveolar sounds, because the alveolar sounds are tough to pronounce. To, do, so, zo, no. Your tongue has to be active. And that is why it happens that if these sounds are followed by non-alveolar sounds, then it doesn't become possible for the tongue to pronounce to and then again coming back to the position. It's not possible. And that's why it sacrifices to. It sacrifices do. It sacrifices so. It sacrifices zo. It sacrifices no. Look at the example. Football. So to, to, alveolar consonant. So this to is sacrificed. And this to is influenced by bilabials. Po, bo. So this alveolar, consonant is sacrificed and influenced by the non-alveolars. And that's why, and what I was saying, that in these cases, the second sound, the following sound, influencing the preceding sound. So, to is influenced by po, and to almost vanishes. Football, 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 football. Some more words. Ground plan becomes ground plan. In the vanishes almost, and it is replaced by more. Ground plan, ground plan, ground plan. Brown beer, brown beer, brown beer, brown beer. Bus shelter, so vanishes. Bus shelter, bus shelter, bus shelter, bus shelter. Some other aspects of assimilation, voicing can also be affected when the voiced consonant vo can become its unvoiced equivalent for. When followed by the unvoiced to, for example, have to go becomes have to go, have. Vo vanishes when it is followed by for. Vo vanishes when it is followed by for. And, followed by the unvoiced to, when followed by the unvoiced to. So, have to go, have, vo completely vanishes. Which one is voiced? I told you, Just put your thumb over here. Bhaw, bhaw. There is a kind of vibration. Bhaw, bhaw. There is a kind of vibration over here. So this is voiced. And unvoiced, which doesn't get taw, 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 taw. It's not voiced. So the voiced one is, influenced by the unvoiced one. So what happens? Have to go, because it's easy to pronounce. So this is another rule. The plosive, I explained these things, which is plosive, non-plosive, in the manner of articulation of consonant sounds. So it depends on the kind of release of air that you do. The plosive daw and jaw can combine daw, 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 just restricting the air and then letting it pass. Daw, daw. There is a kind of restriction at the beginning and then let it pass. This is plosive. Daw, jaw can combine and it becomes the affricate jaw, 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 jaw. So, dear students, do you understand what I am saying? What is plosive sound? What is affricate sound? So, do you understand now what I mean? Do you understand now that why, when I took the classes on manner of articulation and place of articulation, I told you to do those classes sincerely? Because unless you do those classes sincerely, now when I am saying plosive, do I have to repeat all those things again and again? It's not possible. So these are manner of articulation of consonant sounds, what I am saying now. Place of articulation of consonant sounds. You will always need these things. And vowel sounds that I discussed in the previous classes. I mean monophthongs and diphthongs as well. So do these classes. I am earnestly requesting you, do these classes. And if you missed those classes, please do those classes first and then come to this class. Otherwise, it's not possible. And we don't know when our classes will start. Physically, we will meet you people. And these are the materials with the help of which you have to appear at the examination. So the plosive daw and jaw can combine and it becomes the affricate jaw, jaw. In affricate, there is a kind of restriction and releasing the air very slowly with a kind of friction. So all these things I discussed. So these are manner of articulation of consonant sounds. So daw and jaw, when it gets combined, it becomes jaw. Can you remember? Sometimes earlier I said there is a difference between zaw, jaw, zaw, jaw, zaw, jaw. So in both cases it's not affricate. One is affricate. This one is affricate. So this one is creating more friction and restriction of air is more in the pronunciation of jaw. For example, how do you do becomes how do you do? How do you do? How do you do? How do you do? So remember these things. Similarly, the plosive taw, taw. These are plosives. Taw, taw, taw. And semivowel ear can combine to become the affricate chaw. So taw and ear, when it gets combined, it becomes chaw. For example, don't you know becomes don't you know, don't you know, don't you know, don't you know. So what is affricate? What is plosive? What is voiced? What is unvoiced? What is monophthong? What is diphthong? What is place of articulation of consonant sounds? What is manner of articulation of consonant sounds? Can you remember all these things? If you can remember all those things, then it's fine. But if you can't remember all those things, it's not fine. And that's why I'm again requesting you to go back to those classes and follow those classes sincerely and then come to this class. So for today's class, let's complete it here. Let's conclude here. And in the next class, I will discuss elision. And I hope that you will follow these classes sincerely because this is the only way by means of which we can pass the examination. Thank you very much.